For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for more updates.
Did you know that income tax returns or ITRs jumped to a record high of 7.4 crore last year? Did you know that 2.69 lakh people filed ITRs for incomes above rupees 1 crore? Hello and welcome to another edition of Capital Calculus. I am your host, Anil Padmanabhan. Last week, the government disclosed that the income tax returns or ITRs filed for last year touched a record of 7.4 crore. Tag this with the growing base of the goods and services tax regime and the rapidly expanding digital footprint of 1 billion Indians, you have a trend. This is one about the formalization of the Indian economy. Historically, most Indians have lived outside the scope of the formal economy. Hence, this pivot is hugely important. It lays the foundation for democratization of access to benefits of the formal economy like credit, social security, and so on. To unpack this phenomenon, we spoke to Srinivas Jain, Head of Strategy at SBI Mutual Fund. Srini, as he is popularly known, is also a keen observer of the Indian economy and the profound makeover through digital disruption. I began by asking Srini about his first thoughts about the ITR filings for last fiscal, that is 22-23.
Well, I think it's fairly very encouraging actually. Think about it. In the last few years, we've seen the growth, but the acceleration of growth, especially coming post the COVID downturn, is a significant thing. What's also, like you said, very interesting to see is the almost 500 crore new tax filers. Right? So that's a very big number that we see. So we see a significant pace happening. One other data point that I saw very interesting is that while the tax base is improving, it's not necessarily at the bottom of the pyramid it's increasing. I saw a big jump between that 5 lakh and 10 lakh category and 10 and 20 lakh category, which is also a good thing. That means there is a wealth creation effect that's coming. Either tax compliances is going up or the tax base is going up. You can say either way, but definitely there is a big boost in the number of people coming in. Of course, our base is very low. Every time you look at a base like this, you feel why only 6 crore people are filing tax return. But that's the fact. That's the reality. It will take some more years before the numbers to start becoming anywhere significant to global standards.
The FM next day in Parliament updated this number. It is now, according to her, about 7.4 crore and 7.74 crore, the ITR filing, and which compared to 2013, it's almost doubled. So what are your thoughts about this widening of the direct tax base?
I think it's a very good, so the way to think about it is that we use this two terminology called deepening and widening. And this deepening and widening is one of the key reasons for the growth of this in the last decade, doubling the, tax base. Of course, compared to where we are today in the compliance level and the base level, this definitely is small, but the potential to grow from here is very large. What also gives us confidence clearly is the nature in which the tax compliance is coming. What I saw very interestingly in the recent numbers that the Income Tax Department put out was that in places like Northeast, Chhattisgarh, even Jammu Kashmir, the new ITR filings have been significantly in double digits, right? In fact, it's something like a 20% plus kind of jump, while in the traditional big markets, it's been around 9 to 10% growth. So this is a very, very interesting thing to see. Overall, there is a formalization, and this formalization is helping better tax compliance. And of course, there is a push towards digitization. And with digitization, obviously, the parallel economy and such kind of things that used to happen in the past is kind of come down significantly. So I am not very surprised if this number or trend continues to double decade after decade. In fact, we should see further acceleration.
Interesting. So what you're saying, Srini, is that the wealth is being spread across the country, I guess, if people in Northeast Chhattisgarh are filing. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, going by tax numbers being filed, of course these Northeast Chhattisgarh, Jammu Kashmir have a low base effect, but it also tells you that the economy is kind of diversifying. The number of tax filers in the past, and we all know tax compliance being low in India clearly because of 2-3 reasons. One, of course, the formal economy used to be very small. Now that's larger. Then, of course, there is a massive amount of exempt sectors which don't have to pay taxes. So all of that is now kind of changing. And these markets, where agrarian economy markets, are now becoming more and more formalized. And the income levels are going up there beyond the agriculture income. And that's where you see the trend happening. That's where you see these numbers going up.
So, Srini, how does this sit with your own industry, the mutual fund industry's data? Are you seeing this reflected in your mutual fund accretions?
Oh, absolutely. I think we have been the biggest beneficiary of what we call as formalization or financialization of savings. There has been a significant move from non-financial assets to financial assets. So all the financial assets, whether it was banking deposits or mutual funds or equity market or to that extent even insurance, have seen a significant bump during this formalization phase. Mutual funds have been a much larger beneficiary, clearly because there is also this trend to move towards market-linked kind of investments or market-linked kind of savings. And as more and more disposable savings, more and more income earnings go up, there is ability for people to actually look beyond. First is saving going up, and second, the portion of the savings going into non-contractual interest rate bearing securities to more market linked securities. So we've seen the biggest growth. If you see, as SBI Mutual Fund, we've tripled in the last decade, or more than tripled in the last decade. Crores of investors have bought in mutual fund scheme, and thanks to products like SIPs, this has now become even more easier. As low as 10, 100 rupees, 500 rupees a month accretion is kind of helped us build a very large pool of systematic investment plan investors. And SBI Mutual Fund has been a very large beneficiary of it.
But Srini, is this also going beyond the super metros? Are you seeing, like we saw in the ITR filings, new regions and new states entering?
Well, it's good that you ask this question. In fact, the biggest segment of growth for the industry, and more so for SBI Mutual Fund, is what we call as B30, beyond the top 30 cities. That's the regulatory definition for top 30 city and beyond 30 top 30 cities. And beyond top 30 city, the growth in retail has been significantly higher. In some markets, it's 5x, 7x compared to what it used to be in the past. We are actually very proud as SBI Mutual Fund. We now serve something like 93% PIN codes across the country, which is a very big, growth. So clearly, all this formalization is helping us grow in smaller rural economies.
I just want to stay on this formalization subject and tag the GST numbers. It's a very relatively new concept, 6 years old, but the tax base has gone from some 6 to 7 million, now 14.1 million. So you're seeing almost more than doubling. So does this fit into this formalization conversation that we are having?
Yes or no. See, indirect taxes and formalization are not necessarily aligned. GST being an indirect tax, but it's a consumption-based tax. So obviously, as consumption go up, this would go up. In the past, the tax compliances were not very, and GST was available in a different VAT and other kind of formats. Now with a universal GST format, standardized rate, in fact, more importantly, all these credits that you get as part of the GST system actually has helped grow that piece. So the tax compliance has gone up significantly there. And of course, the economy has become bigger. As the economy becomes bigger, and we move more towards the 5 trillion, you will see indirect tax component going up much more significantly as more and more people kind of consume, obviously impacting. And the other part about GST is the technology initiative. GST has brought in ability to stop tax evasions in a big way because of the whole ecosystem being covered in the GST. Otherwise, you don't get credit. You'll have to file and take. So all of this has created better tax compliance, and of course, a bigger economy, the larger economy, has helped GST compliance.
From our conversation so far, it is clear that India's economy is gradually getting formalized. In other words, the informal economy is shrinking. However, we don't have precise estimates of this shift. State Bank of India, an analyst report, claims that post-COVID, the size of the informal economy shrank from over 50% to an incredible 20%. Is this a fair claim?
I mean, I'll go with the data SBI has put out there. Obviously, there has been some research that Soumyakanti Ghosh, our chief economist, has worked with. So what the report says, and I kind of agree, is that we were at about 52% of the economy, formal economy. I think this was NSSO data in 2018. And as per SBI, I think this is now shrunk to closer to 20%. Right? So that means there has been a significant formalization of the economy. Where they see a big changes in finance and insurance sector, where they see big changes in trade, hotel, manufacturing, in all those smaller informal sector, construction industry, manufacturing industry. But agriculture industry is a little slow, and that's still 70% informal compared to the rest of the economy. But I think that's also going to get formalized over a period of time. Formalized doesn't necessarily mean the classical definition of formalization, but formalization means ability to build all that scale that you bring formalization build, and also the benefits that comes from formalization. So clearly, I think the report has to be trusted because there is enough and more anecdotal data to say. In fact, there is a very interesting thing that they talk about. There is this portal called, I think, eShram portal that the government introduced last year. And it's a very short period, 2.7 crore workers were part of that eShram portal. So it also tells you the kind of formalization that's actually happening. And the major beneficiary is SME, MSME kind of segment in this. So I would tend to believe that this informal economy is definitely shrunk from almost 50-55% of the economy to at least a quarter or less than a quarter.
Indeed, if this is true, then there are more people inside the economy looking out.
No, it's you hit the nail on the head. It's perfect. I think the ability for tax compliances and the base to go up is going to be about how much of your financial assets, how much of your assets are in financial nature, right? And that's with the bank account, with the ability to get more and more people getting subsidy out of that. And through that, your ability to both support the economy and at the same time expand the economy, because now access to credit, all of this, and GST giving you more informal data and formal data. This, I think, is, like as you said, outside in, inside out perspective is a perfect perspective here. And I think, again, very, very early days. What you are going to see in coming years is what some of the other larger economy have seen in the last, like China, US, and other markets have seen in the past. But it's going to happen. It's a matter of time.
See, the another aspect of formalization normally is an impact on productivity and competitiveness. Are you seeing it anecdotally, and do you see this eventually this trend will play out?
There are sets of data to say that it is true, but I think it is definitely in select sectors. There is still a lot of skilling that needs to be done for that productivity benefit to come in a big way. But I think we are in the right direction around that. Obviously, the formalized sectors are more productive, and they have been investing, and at least even the smallest of small SME, MSMEs have been trying to build better productivity. And it's a competitive world. That's the way to think about it. But clearly, there are massive gaps that needs to be addressed, especially when it comes to skilling, market economy, the entire logistical infrastructure. So I think there are steps that are being addressed by the government to go there. But I would say there is a significant improvement, but it's not moved significantly in terms of the needle that's there.
This another trend we are seeing, Srini, is that it's of a demographic nature. That over the last, say, 15 years, India has managed to pare the size of poverty by over 400 million. It has also meant that they have moved into the middle class, maybe not at the right levels, but they have entered the middle class. Maybe too early to say whether they'll save or not save. But
Right.
how does this play into the formalization of the economy? It will, I presume, accelerate the process, right?
No, absolutely. I think as the middle class base goes up, automatically there are significant efforts when it comes to revenue collection, allocation of resources, curbing. So if you can afford to do certain things, you would not want to do it illegally. You want to do it legally. More importantly, I think there's some stability and predictability of the growth. If you see the pre-90s period, it was very variable because one, of course, there was no data to say what's going to happen in the future. There was no predictability. Two, I think we've went from one disaster to another disaster. Today, I think these things are, with middle class becoming larger and larger of the base, these things can be controlled dramatically. Of course, it's still a long way to go to get a lot of those millions of people in the below poverty line to come up. But I think there is, as that effect takes shape, the multiplier effect on the formalization, the multiplier effect on the economy is much, much larger. We already see that happening. Credit growth, financialization. These things are natural, and these are obviously bound to happen. And that's why capital is frogging India for those sectors which they believe is going to grow significantly.
It's really interesting, this formalization and credit. We have the account aggregator framework, which has been seeded. It seems to be picking momentum. Now that has entirely overturned the idea of lending. It's against flows as against collaterals. So do you see more such innovations coming forth as the digital footprint of 1 billion Indians grow?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, this concept of flow-based lending is so apt in a country like India, where people are data rich but economically poor. So if there is enough data that can be monetized today, historically, if you have to go to a bank and ask, even before Mudra loans, the bank obviously expected some guarantee, some certainty, some proof that there is income there, and majority of the Indians did not have one. And as we became more digitized, we were leaving those digital footprints all over, right? And GST was a killer part of it. Right now, everything is kind of accounted for: volume, trade, tax compliance. Everything is now available. In fact, account aggregator is now getting into GST data too. And as you start bringing in GST data, these kind of unbanked, or not just unbanked is wrong, the guys who could not get formal credit automatically will start getting credit in coming days. As we start taking data that's there, which is not conventionally available, through these kind of setups like GST and other data pools that are available. So now, this is the benefit of data, right? So we are now going to go from being a data rich or setup to a much more real rich or setup, where financial benefits will now start coming out of using this data.
Srini has rightly argued that there are enough indicators to suggest that the Indian economy is gradually formalizing. This trend will only accelerate once 1 billion Indians expand their digital footprint. The passage of the Data Security Bill assures against misuse of the vast amount of private data out there. Indeed, data-rich Indians can now look forward to becoming economically well-off too. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Strat News Global on YouTube. Hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. And if you like this episode, please do hit the like button and share. And please do share your thoughts, ideas and suggestions with us. I'm available on Twitter at Capital Calculus. I'll be back next week with another episode. Till then, stay safe.